Good afternoon and welcome to today's meeting of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel. If we have people, you can bring people in, Lydia.
Great, everyone's in, and we've also got Mary Lynn now as well.
Yeah, great, thank you. If people are waiting to make a submission to the panel, if you can please put yourself on mute until you're invited to address the panel, that will just help with the reducing echoing, etc., and background noise. I think we have a person, Mr. Rasmussen, if you wouldn't mind putting yourself on mute, that would be great. And we'll let you know when it's time to speak to the panel. Thanks very much. Okay, so my name's Marcia Downey and I'm the chair of today's local planning panel. The other panel members with me are Mary Lynn Taylor and Sue Weatherly, who are both expert members of the panel. And we have Sue Denham, who's our community representative. Before I start the meeting, I'd like to, on behalf of the panel and on behalf of the council, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we're meeting today and pay our respects to their elders past and present. Each panel member has signed a declaration of conflicts of interest, but I'll ask each of you to please advise verbally whether you have any conflicts of interest for today's meeting. I do not. Sue Weatherly?
Chair, no, I do not have any conflicts of interest.
Thank you. Sue Denham? You're on mute, Sue.
Sorry, I don't have any conflict of interest.
Thank you. And Mary Lynn, I think that you do have a conflict. Oh, we've lost Mary Lynn again. Oh, no, we haven't. Hang on. Mary Lynn, you're on mute. Mary Lynn, if you look on the top of your screen, you'll see towards the right a mic.
Done it now.
Got it? Okay,
Yes.
so you just stay, don't bother going on mute for the meeting. If you can, you're in now, so let's just keep you here. But if you wouldn't mind just advising for the record of your conflict, please.
Yes, I've declared an interest in item number 3 with relation to the Hotel Stain, as I have had I have been a solicitor advising that hotel many years ago, and so that would be considered, I think, something that might be inappropriate for me to be on the panel.
Thanks, Mary Lynn. So what we will do, we will note that declaration, and we'll let item 4.3. We'll deal with item 4.1, 4.2, and 4.4 with Mary Lynn, and then we will then go back to 4.3 and Mary Lynn will leave the meeting.
Certainly.
Thank you. Okay, so we have minutes of a previous meeting which was held on the 16th of October, and the panel notes that those minutes have been reviewed and approved by the chair of the panel on that date. And we have today 4 matters to be dealt with in this public meeting, and they are 337 Lower Plateau Road, Bilgola, 1378 Woodlands Street and 2 Neild Avenue, Balgola, 75 The Corso, Manly, and lot 225 Abbott Road, North, Curl. So we will start with item 4.1. In relation to each application, the panel has visited the sites and we have read the assessment reports and all accompanying documentation. We've read the submissions from the public and any supplementary reports for all applications. So you don't need to repeat, if you're making a submission, you don't need to repeat your submission if you could just make the keynotes that you'd like to draw the panel's attention to. Registered speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the panel, and that time may be expended at my discretion if I feel that that's warranted. Speakers are obviously required to use respectful language. The meeting will be recorded and will form part of the record publicly available for this meeting. Following submissions, then the panel will have the opportunity to ask questions of any speakers. And as I said, the meeting's being recorded and will be available on Council's website after the meeting. At the end of the public hearing, the panel will move into closed session to deliberate and reach a decision, and usually the decision is made on the same day and posted on Council's website within 24 to 48 hours. So our first item is item 4.1, 337 Lower Plateau Road, Bilgola Plateau. We have 2 objectors registered to speak on this matter. We have Tatiana Kilo and Alejandro Machuron, and your address is 331 Lower Plateau Road, Bilgola Plateau. Welcome. Thank you very much for registering and taking the time to address the panel this afternoon. If you'd like to proceed, please, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. Dear panel, we would like to express our grave concerns about this development regarding 2 aspects, the environmental aspect and also the safety of the access in the driveway. So this project is on a large scale, obviously, changing the area significantly and forever. In the current climate situation, the full scale of this project now, which is the subdivision, and future, which is the development on the building, is not fully addressed in our opinion. Future buildings of houses will require new DAs with likely even more impact. The green corridor of this area is under threat for the plants, the wildlife and humans. Even though the impact is considered minimal according to the provided documents in the minutes you sent, we feel the large and long-term scale of the entire project cannot be predicted, even with all the calculations. We have been living here during the devastating weather events in 2022, including witnessing landslides on Lower Plateau Road and seeing the massive increase in water flow on the waterway running through our property and also running through the property under discussion. We feel the stormwater drainage is a major concern. We all learned that those weather events are very unpredictable and will probably be even more unpredictable in the future. In this terrain with a huge slope and being a known flood-prone area, future flash flooding is going to have a devastating impact for properties surrounding. Secondly, we also have great concerns around the safe access to the 3 properties. Access to the property for emergency vehicles, especially fire brigades for bush and house fires. If they cannot reach the affected area in a timely manner, a fire could spread quickly to surrounding properties, placing everyone's lives at risk. The same applies to ambulances that need to be able to go to a house quickly and not got stuck due to unexpected other cars that cannot move away freely. I'm a doctor and I'm trained in paramedics, including rescue in difficult areas, and any minute delay can mean a difference when somebody is resuscitated. I have seen that in my own experience. Moreover, we have concerns in regards to the proposed traffic lights. Lower Plateau Road has no speed bumps, and especially during peak traffic, there's a lot of local and non-local cars, particularly youths of construction and tradies, are often running at high speed. The area is very busy in the morning, and with a increased number of youths with tradesmen going through the area. The driveway is near a curve at Lower Plateau Road with poor visibility in an area where it's not legal to overtake. Having a traffic light here would cause congestion and is a huge safety concern for accidents to happen due to poor visibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is it Tatiana? Thanks, Tatiana.
That's correct.
Thank you. That was all very clear and very comprehensive, so thank you for your submission. Panel members, do you have any questions for Tatiana?
No, thank you.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you for your submission.
Sue, sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm used to Zoom. Apologise. No, it was all quite clear. Thank you. I have no questions.
Okay, well, thank you, panel. Thanks very much to both Tatiana and Alejandro. And as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, the panel has a number of matters to consider today in the public meeting, and then after we've done that, we will then move into closed session, make a decision, and that decision will be placed on Council's website within the next 24 or 48 hours. But thank you very much for taking the time to present to the committee this afternoon. And you're welcome to stay while the applicants make a submission as well. Thank you. So we have 3 people registered to speak on behalf of the applicant. We've got Greg Boston, planner, Sean Gartner, architect, and Ray Treverson, owner. Who would like to speak first?
I guess I'll go first if that's okay.
Sure. Who's
Sean Gartner,
Hi.
architect. Yeah. This application for subdivision has been through quite a lengthy process with council. It was originally submitted last year. Several matters were brought up by council, including the requirement for waterways impact and flora and fauna studies. At the time, council suggested that we withdraw and get those works done and then resubmit. That's what we did. This year we submitted the new application for the subdivision with indicative houses. It's been through a very long process with council in terms of making adjustments and providing additional information to make sure that all of the things for the subdivision, such as the site slope, the retention of native vegetation, the flora and fauna, the waterways impacts, the driveway, are all okay. We've reached a position with council where we are so close to an approval that there's just a minor number of technicalities now that stand in front of us. We believe that some of those technicalities in terms of traffic and stormwater can easily be resolved in phone conversations, and we provided additional information on Monday to the council to seek to get them to look at those, because in some senses they are just providing one section, or it's providing concurrence that a certain part of a policy does or does not apply. So we believe that the stormwater and the traffic are issues that are very, very simply resolved and could be resolved within 24 hours if council would talk to us about those. There's one further matter that needs to be resolved, and that's Aboriginal heritage. We've had a flora and fauna study and a waterways impact study both identify that there are no registered items of Aboriginal heritage on the site. New South Wales office has, however, said that there is the faint possibility that there could be items on the site, so they've asked for a due diligence report. We went through the New South Wales government published document, which is the Due Diligence Code of Practice for the Protection of Aboriginal Objects in New South Wales, put out by the Environmental, Climate and Change Office. That document provides you with a checklist of things that you answer yes or no to, and you finally get to a result. And the result that we got to was that no AHIP was necessary. This was not agreed. We're in a position now where the New South Wales Office of Heritage is saying that we have to have a due diligence report. We're happy to do that report. I've spoken to a consultant this morning who can provide that report to us within 3 to 4 weeks. And so what we would do is say that we've come so far with this application with council, and the matters to resolve are so minor that we would seek a deferral to provide the additional information. And I'll pass over to Greg Boston. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Panel members, look, I haven't got much more to add to that, other than the fact that there's a supplementary memo which no doubt the panel members might have received. I know it's just popped up on the website this morning and I've had a look at that. effectively what council's saying is, look, they've received the information in relation to removing the traffic signal from the adjoining property, and the absence of owner's consent was reason for refusal number one. That was just a drafting error rather than something that's necessary. So the amended documentation that we've provided removes the requirement for owner's consent from the neighbour. It also provides some additional section and sightline analysis at the top of the driveway, which effectively were the two reasons for refusal under reason for refusal one. The second one related to the Aboriginal due diligence report, which, as you heard this morning, we can provide to council in a reasonably timely manner. And the last issue didn't relate to flooding, but simply stormwater and some additional details which have been provided to council. So the supplementary memo indicates that council simply hasn't had sufficient time to assess that. And on that basis, what we would ask is that the panel defer the determination of the application, simply to allow council to at least consider the information that we've provided, which we believe would at least knock out 2 of the 4 reasons for refusal prior to you formally determining the application. And if you are of a mind to defer it or to hand delegation to the executive manager, we can provide that Aboriginal due diligence report. And if that is, if the findings of that report are that there is no Aboriginal significance on the site, then we would simply ask the panel to request conditions from staff and approve the application. And it's not uncommon as an independent panel for the panel to defer matters and to ask for conditions in circumstances where you find yourself in a position where the application can in fact be supported. The reasons for refusal don't go towards the unsuitability of the site in relation to the 3-lot subdivision proposed. There is agreement that the indicative buildings or dwelling designs that were provided are appropriate for the site. So we say that 3 of the 4 issues are matters of detailing, with the due diligence report a merit issue which we believe will be resolved within the next 3 to 4 weeks. We're in the panel's hands and obviously here to answer any questions that might arise.
Thanks, Greg. Does any panel members have any questions? I guess before we go to that, I just wanted to make some comments in relation to what's been said so far. So the issues, as you've noted, are Aboriginal cultural heritage, stormwater, and owner's consent for the traffic lights on the adjoining neighbour. They're obviously not. Sean referred to them as minor issues. They're clearly not minor issues. So that's just the first point I wanted to make. Secondly, council staff have been asking for information on these issues for some time. And so we hope that you'll appreciate that when amended plans come in the day before the panel meeting, that just does not allow for sufficient time for a proper assessment of those plans. And so the panel's making a determination today on the plans that were the subject of the assessment report, not the plans that came through this week. In relation to landowners' consent, the proposal, so you're saying that there's a proposal that the access arrangement be changed so that there no longer is a requirement for traffic lights on the adjoining property, is that right?
No, the problem was that the drawing had a note on the plan saying traffic lights for the driveway, and the dot for the traffic lights was just on the wrong side of the boundary.
Oh, I see.
It's like a typo. It just needed to be moved to the other side of the boundary. That eliminates owner's consent.
So it was never intended that the traffic lights be on the adjoining land. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. The plans that we have in front of us have the traffic lights next door, and as you'll appreciate, it's for that reason only we don't have any legal capacity to grant consent to the DA
I
So I just
recognise
wanted
that.
to be transparent about that. Yeah. I didn't have anything else to say, but I'll invite panel members to make any comment or ask any questions of the speakers. Sue Weatherly, would you like to go first?
I didn't have any questions or any comments to make, no.
Okay.
My comments would have been yours, Marcia.
All right, thank you. Mary Lynn?
No, I don't have any further comments. Thank you.
Okay, and Sue Denham?
Me neither. I'm thoroughly up to date with the previous stuff, not the stuff that came through late yesterday afternoon.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
panel.
No
I mean,
questions.
it's fair to, I do want to say that it's clear that enough effort has been made to address many of the issues that have been raised by council, and it does feel like you're making good progress, but on the plans that are before the panel today, the issues are really not minor at all, and they're not plans that the panel would be in a position to approve. So, was there anything else that anyone wanted to say before I conclude this item?
Yep.
Okay, thanks very much.
Great. Well, that was quick.
Marcia, it's Ray Treverson here. Am I allowed to speak as well?
Yes, you are. Yep.
Good afternoon to you all. Look, I'd like to highlight to the panel and all of you that have made submissions and are part of the process today that we went out to our local neighbours 3 years ago and gave them advice that we had intended to do something with 3,500 square metres of suburban land. This is not a national park that we're dealing with here, and we're not dealing with the kind of sensitivities where the hyperbole around the number of trees that have been identified have been correctly identified in the report, that the vast majority of them could be taken out today without any need for certified or authority from the council. So that's the first point I'd like to make. The second point I'd like to make is that we have gone out of our way to consult with all our neighbours. We've been reasonable in that our property could have been subdivided into 4 lots, but advice from Sean and Greg said, look, in keeping with the area, make it 3 only. And it's right, because all of the blocks are over 1,000 square metres. We are taking up space for 1 extra house because 2 of the houses will be built on the existing footprint of the current property. And in the midst of a housing crisis, I'm finding it rather concerning that we can't sit there logically and say we're turning 1 into 3 and we're doing it in the most sensitive possible way that we can approach. We've gone out of our way to approach and satisfy every requirement from council. We have been delayed not by our own people, but by council not coming back and being as responsive as they could have. And so when you're talking about a 217-day process, please go back and have a look. Most of that delay was not us, but yourselves. And so from that perspective, I would like proper and due consideration for the cost that we've gone through to get to this point. We believe we've been very reasonable, and we are also with the view that we've been here for 25 years and on the plateau for over 30. We understand the environmental concerns, and we are incredibly in tune with that and trying to do the least amount of damage whilst we're also trying to turn 1 into 3. And I believe what Sean and Greg have put forward is incredibly reasonable, given that everybody that's put in a submission have happily cleared their own quarter-acre blocks of anything native or anything close to being so with their tended lawns. And we probably have the biggest and most bush-oriented place on the plateau at this point in time, and we want to keep it that way. But we also have an opportunity that we need to, for our retirement, do this subdivision because we need to do so. And everything we've done in the view of trying at our best opportunity to do everything within code, Okay, so I would like at this very late stage, ma'am, that we be given full and due consideration of not something that's 217 days old, but maybe that's just been done because we've been delayed not by ourselves, but by your own processes as well. Okay, we've put a lot of time and money into this. We want to see it seen through to its proper and full conclusion, rather than a bureaucratic box ticker simply saying, well, you had your chance and you're done. I don't think that's a fair and reasonable way to approach this. We will do everything in our power to provide you all the information you need to make a proper and fully informed assessment of our application. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much. I just on your comment on trees. Trees is not an issue that's been raised in the reasons for refusal, as I recall.
I understand, Marcia, but believe me, much of the hyperbole that's been going on with the complaints and the objections centres around that, and then they will find a whole range of other reasons that they can tack on, rather than sticking with the idea that says, hey guys, what we're trying to do here is reasonable and within council regulations, which it is. And I thank you for your acknowledgement that that's not the issue. But we've solved the problems that have been brought to Greg and Sean's requirement, and that's why we've asked them to do this job. They're experts at this, and so we'd like that to be given full consideration, ma'am.
Yeah, well, I understand that, and the panel understands that. I just want to be really clear: the recommendations for refusal is not because of what is being included in the objection. They are really important planning considerations, which would have been identified. And I'm not really going to go backwards and forwards with you, Ray, but I just want for yours, to be really clear with you so that you understand the process. Planning can be a really difficult process for people to comprehend and to work through. But the planning officers have a responsibility to assess applications in accordance with all of the planning requirements, and issues like Aboriginal cultural heritage, flooding, ensuring that there is a safe access to properties for all of the reasons that have been noted and which you will be, obviously well aware of.
Yeah.
They are just not, they're non-negotiables. They have to be addressed. And it's clear that your team have done a lot of work to get to where it is now, and it may well be close, I don't know, but we just cannot, the panel cannot make a determination to approve the application today, nor can we defer it, because the problem with deferring it is then more work will need to be done, and it could come back to a different panel, and a different panel might have different views, and it also extends the time for assessing, which you've noted you consider that hasn't been your team's fault. But in any event, it's not an option that I support, and so I'll have to just draw this item to a close now. But thank you very much, everybody who's come along to present to the committee today. Thank you. So that completes item 4.1, and we now have item 4.2, which is 137A Woodland Street and 2 Neild Avenue, Balgowlah, demolition works and construction of multi-dwelling housing. On this item, we have one objector, Tony Rasmussen, and we have the applicant's representative, also Greg Boston, in this one. Mr. Rasmussen, I'll invite you to address the panel.
Thank you, Chair and panel, and thanks for this opportunity to address you today. I'm actually representing residents from 4 properties, 3 of whom send their apologies. I'm also representing the owners of 139 Woodland Street, Mark and Rachel Newman, 139A Woodland Street, Kerry and Carol Middup. Both those owners are travelling today and couldn't be on the meeting, otherwise they would be. And also, I'm in a duplex here, and my next door neighbour is Mr. Carl Wilson at 4 Neild Avenue. He lives overseas, and so he can't attend the meeting today, but they've given me permission to speak on their behalf.
Thank you. Well, all of those neighbours' names will be noted on the public record as that you're speaking for them.
Thank you. So together, these properties will run along the entire northern boundary of the proposed development, and together we are joining together to fully support the council's recommendation to the panel that this application be refused. Obviously, the council's report is comprehensive, but today I'd like to speak to our main concerns around flooding and overdevelopment. Firstly, to floods. The development is located on a medium flood risk precinct. The development has issues with compliance within its own design around issues with flooding of the proposed units on the site. The group of residents I'm representing were in fact the first to raise this concern because we joined together to employ an architect and professional planner to help us with our joint submission to council when this application was first proposed. And it was this document that first identified this flooding issue around floor levels in the building design. That is flooding within the site itself. So that's a big issue, and I don't believe that's been resolved. There's also the issue of the free movement of water over land, i.e. from our properties higher up, Neald Avenue and Woodland Street. The land here slopes down, and we're concerned about the fact that no proper overland flow study has been submitted by the applicants. This is despite being raised in public submissions and also called for by the council on more than one occasion from the applicants. We also note that in relation to both these issues with flooding, no additional material has been formally lodged on the planning portal, and that the development will have unreasonable flooding impacts on adjoining properties. Now to overdevelopment, and this revolves around key areas of excessive height, floor space ratios, gross floor areas, setbacks, and deep soil. And these are all matters raised in our joint submission that we put in last year. Overall, it is about the bulk and scale of the proposal. It's non-compliant in each of these areas, and that's indicative of an overdevelopment of the site. In the interests of time, I'll just stick to speaking to floor space ratios, which is obviously non-compliant as well. And an amended set of master plans was uploaded to the council development application site just last Friday, and these still show a gross floor area of 1,050.5 square metres against a maximum allowable gross floor area of 967 square metres. So that's a 0.54 to 1 proposed FSA when the requirement is actually 0.5 to 1. That's an 8.63% variation. And the applicants have not determined why such a variation might be permissible under the various acts and environmental plans, which they could do so. Finally, I'd like to just briefly speak about privacy. I'd like to make a comment on behalf of the owners of 139 and 139A Woodland in regards to building separation and visual privacy. I'm sure they would have, had they not been travelling today, they would have spoken to this themselves. The proposed development fails to provide separation between their adjoining properties. This lack of separation will result in direct overlooking from first floor bedrooms and windows along the northern side of the development, and they will have direct line of sight into private open spaces to other dwellings to the north of the development. So in summary, the owners of the 4 properties I'm representing today fully support the assessment report submitted by council to the panel, recommending a refusal of this application as it stands. And as I wrote in my personal submission last year, we take no pleasure in objecting to the development and not anti-development. We just believe the proposal as it stands contains a number of significant issues that need to be worked through before it be considered to be complying. So thank you for your time this afternoon.
I'm doing the same thing. Thank you very much for your time. I didn't have any questions. Before I go to Greg, I'll ask the rest of the panel members whether you had anything that you want to ask Mr. Rasmussen. Sue Weatherly?
No questions, and thank you for your submission.
Mary Lynn?
No further questions. Thank you very much.
And Sue Denham?
No further questions. Yeah, it was quite clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Greg, would you like to respond to
Yes, no, thank you.
that submission?
Yeah, look, I won't necessarily be responding to that submission, but simply advising that clearly there's some jurisdictional hurdles which we're not going to be able to get over to enable the panel to determine the application. Flooding being one, and the absence of a clause 4.6 for height another. But what I did want the panel to consider is in the context of this application being in with council since June last year, and the loss of a deemed refusal appeal right, and the prospects of this matter proceeding by way of appeal. I just wanted the panel to just give careful consideration to each of the reasons for refusal on the basis that any appeal will be defended in relation to the panel's decision, not necessarily the council recommendation. The only two conditions that I want the panel to put their mind to are reasons for refusal 5, which relates to the old SEP 65 design quality provisions, which are now within the housing SEP, and also reason for refusal 7, which relates to dwelling density. And this goes back to pre-DA meeting that was held back in July 2022, where council staff indicated that a dwelling density of not more than 7 units and an FSR within 10% of policy compliance would be acceptable. The application was reported to Council's Design and Sustainability Advisory Panel, who were very supportive of the concept, but did make a number of recommendations. The application as submitted and as before you today is for 7 dwellings on the site, which is really just rounding up the DCP requirement of, I think, 6.3 dwellings on the site to 7, and the FSR is well within the 10% variation. The recommendation or the conclusions of the Design and Sustainability Panel when this particular scheme was reported to them are on page 168 of your agenda. And what that says is, it says, with the exception of some minor issues, the panel is in support of the proposal due to its demonstration of careful site-specific design, high levels of amenity and sensitive approach to landscape and character. So notwithstanding the other reasons for refusal, which I understand to a certain extent, what I'm asking the panel to do is actually give weight to the feedback which council staff received from the Design and Sustainability Panel, and also give consideration to the dwelling density concern in the context of, you'll no doubt hear a lot of it, the housing crisis, or the significant need to increase residential densities in appropriate locations. And I would like to proceed, if this does go to appeal, for at least the design quality contention or the reasons for refusal to be reconsidered by the panel, and also that dwelling density, saying that 7 dwellings is too much for this particular site, such that the real issues associated with the proposal being flooding, being the height of the development, the variation is simply because the floor levels have to come up to satisfy the flood planning levels. That's an environmental planning ground, so is the topography. And I say that those are the 2 fundamental issues in relation to this particular application, and it would be good if the reasons for refusal reflected that. Apart from that, I'm here to answer any questions that the panel members might have.
Thanks, Greg. Sue Weatherly?
Thank you, Mr. Boston. So I assume can I just summarise what you just said? So you're keen for the panel, if we are mindful to refuse the application, to do so without the reasons 5 and 7. Is that in summary?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, correct.
All right. And in terms of the density issue, you don't think that you can't just immediately conclude that the density is okay if, in fact, we do have other problems with the site? I mean, I don't know how you say how you come to a conclusion that can be absolutely certain that it's not a density problem when we know that the site is constrained because of the overland flow.
Yeah, look, there's two issues in relation to density. One is the FSR standard, which, we acknowledge the fact that we're over, and I wasn't the original planner who prepared the clause 4.6, so I've only just recently come on board.
Yeah.
But certainly density is tied into what I would describe as a minor FSR variation, certainly well within 10%. And also there's a dwelling density provision in the DCP, which is 1 dwelling per 300. And all I'm really after is some commentary in the reason for refusal or the minutes of the panel to say that you're not fundamentally opposed to the 7 dwellings on the site. It's just the configuration or the fact that there's more work to do to address flooding, which might have other knock-on impacts. But I just don't want to get to a position where council is defending a decision of the panel that you can't have more than 6 dwellings on this particular site, because I'm not convinced that you can't get 6 dwellings within a compliant FSR and all of a sudden it would be acceptable. So I'm just mindful of the wording that comes out of these minutes.
Yeah, and that's where I was going. I was going to just question whether or not the issue may be, it could actually be 7 dwellings, but we'd still have a reduction in the floor space ratio.
Yeah, correct. But it would be handy if the minutes or the reasons for refusal reflected the fact that it was more about the FSR and the associated impacts rather than the dwelling density.
Then the number of dwellings,
Correct.
Of dwellings. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mary Lynn, did you have anything?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Or Sue Denham?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just for Mr. Rasmussen's benefit, that the panel cannot grant consent to this development application today for 2 reasons. There's flooding issues that we need to be satisfied of, which there is insufficient information to be able to satisfy us of, and so there is a legal restriction to us granting consent in those circumstances. And then there's a second legal restriction in that there is this discussion about clause 4.6 is where there's a height non-compliance. And in order for a panel to be able to approve a development that has that sort of non-compliance, we need a 4.6 request from the applicant, which says why we should approve it, notwithstanding that it doesn't comply. And forgive me if you're a planner, Mr. Rasmussen, I hope you're not. But so we actually, regardless of the merits of this application, we legally are unable to grant consent to it today. So thank you, Greg. We've had regard to what you've had to say, and I think that's the end of that item. As I mentioned earlier, we will go away and discuss it and determine the application today, and the outcome will be on the council's website within the next day or so. But thanks very much to both of you for your attendance today.
No, thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is the Corso item, which Mary Lynn has a conflict on. But what we will do is deal with item 4.4, for which we have no objectors and no applicants. And this is the signage on the council sports field. So Mary Lynn, I'll ask you to stay in the meeting. We'll deal with this matter, and then I'll ask you to leave the meeting. Well, I won't ask you because you would have been leaving anyway because of your conflict. And then we will deal with item 4.3. So we're now going to deal with item 4.4, which is the construction of illuminated signage on a council sports field at Abbott Road, North Curl. We have no objectors and no applicants speakers, and so I'm just proposing to ask anybody if they have anything they want to say on the public record, and if not, we will just complete this matter and determine it in closed session and then move on to the Corso. So just asking the panel, does anybody have anything they want to say about the illuminated signage?
No, thank you.
Oh, okay, right. Thank you. So Mary Lynn, if you can now leave the meeting and Lydia will give you a call when it's time to come back again, when we've dealt with this matter, which is item 4.3, which is alterations and additions to the hotel staying at 75 The Corso, Manly. We don't have any objectors, and we have Warwick Bowyer here registered to speak. Are you there, Warwick?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
It's very faint, actually. Perhaps you could get closer to the computer or something.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better.
Yes.
Thanks.
Look, I'm just here on behalf of the owners of Stain Hotel. We note the officer's report and recommendation for approval. The reason I'm here is really to just respond to any objectors, of which there are none, or respond to any questions that the panel has. Otherwise, I'll bid you adieu. But are there any
Okay.
questions or any comments you'd like to have Stain Hotel respond in regard?
I'll go through the panel. So I didn't have any. Sue Weatherly? No. Sue Denham?
No.
No. So there are no questions, Warwick. So we will bid you adieu.
Okay, ladies, have a great day. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks for attending. Bye.
Bye.
So we now need to close the meeting, the public meeting. Livia, is that right? And Peter, is there anything else I need to do before I close the public meeting?
No, that's correct. Just close the public
Okay.
meeting and we'll move into deliberations.
Great. All right.
Can
Well,
I?
thank you.
Can I
Thank
just?
you.
Can I? Oh, sorry.
So
Can I
you
just
go, Sue.
have? Can I just have sort of 5-10 minutes just to grab a
Sure. Well,
drinking